All right, hopefully my screen will not do what it's been doing this morning. So here we go. So I'm just going to start again at this type of exam questions around constructed response items. So again, the students will actually construct the responses to your exam questions. Okay, so again, here we are with short answer, restricted essay, and essay. These are, again, common questions that you've seen, but now from a teacher point of view, how do you actually construct these questions? Okay, so basically short answer questions can be direct questions or fill in the blanks. So they can be questions that you say, okay, just here, tell me about Vygotsky's theory. Boom. Or it can be Vygotsky's theory is the state or say stages of Piaget's theory are number one, blank, two, blank, three, blank, four, blank, so that you give the students a few clues, but not so many that the answer is actually there. Okay, so the second one here, they eliminate the recognition of correct answers. So there is no correct answer there. So if they really don't have a clue, there's nothing that they can guess. They could write a whole bunch of fun stuff. I'm actually usually amused when a student has no idea and they just write me, random funny things with those smiley face at the end. And I still give them a 0, but it makes me laugh, and I usually make a comment. You may as well at least put something in there. Sometimes even a slight recognition will get you a couple marks, but again, it eliminates the guessing portion. And hopefully these short answer questions will kind of mimic the questions asked during instruction. So again, if you ask lots of analysis type questions in your classroom time when you're teaching, then you should be able to ask those kind of questions in your short answer. But that will again go back to that table of specifications, is if all you've ever asked in class are recall and knowledge questions, you have to really analyze, okay, is it really fair to now give them these short answer questions with lots of higher level Bloom's ideas in it? Okay. One of the cons of short answer questions is it requires your judgment to score. So it's seen as more subjective than selected response questions, so like true, false, multiple choice. But again, hopefully you're getting the idea that really no test question is truly objective. But students, those are the questions where students are like, well, but I said this, and that's where you might have a rubric. Like you might say, I want these particular things, and then the students at least have an idea of what you're looking for in there. And as a teacher point of view, it just takes longer to mark. It takes longer to mark, shorter to prepare, longer to mark. Okay, let's look at restricted essay and essay questions here. So a restricted essay is you restrict word count, points, and or time. So it's kind of like when I said I want 250 words, I didn't want you to get into 1,500 words. I'm going to give you 15 points, and if this was an in-class evaluation, then I would say you have 45 minutes or 75 minutes or whatever. It also demands some higher order thinking because, again, I would assume you would start to go up into the higher level of Bloom's in these essay questions. So start to talk about analysis, start to talk about connection, talk about creation of the concept. The next one provides comprehensive insight into student understandings. This is where I really figure out if you understand the concept, is in your essays, because you can if you ramble on and you keep repeating yourself, I'm like, they don't really understand. But if you kind of boom, 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 go through, it's like, okay, they understand. Restricted essay type is best when time is a factor. So again, when we're back on campus, you'll have 75 minutes kind of thing to do some evaluations, but not all. And graded using a marking rubric. Again, kind of like I put in your summary for the questions, make sure you're giving me the definitions, make sure you're applying it to your practicum or real life experience. That's a little bit of a rubric for you so that you know that I will be looking for definitions, and also I will be looking for connections to your own life. Okay, so the pros of using restricted essay and essay questions: it's good for assessing understanding of material, higher level thinking, ability to organize info, and basically their writing skills. It's always about writing. That's also a con. And it doesn't take long to prepare these questions, but it takes a long time to mark them. And the cons are the students have to be able to physically write that quickly and organize their thoughts that quickly. If you're giving them sort of a traditional, here's the essay question, you haven't had time to prepare it, there's going to be kids that actually physically will have a tricky time writing out all the things that they actually know in their head, but in that restricted time. It takes a long time to mark. Again, these take a long time to mark. They're seen as subjective, and sometimes students just don't do well on restricted essays, even though they understand the concepts, because of their writing style and their organizational ability, which then you have to decide, am I actually grading their writing and their organizational ability, or am I grading their actual understanding of the content, which is hard to tease apart? So those are just things that you have to be thinking about when you do any essay kind of thing in here. Okay, let's bring it home. So issues with assessment and evaluation. These are sort of the two big ones. Is it about process versus standard, or is it about journey versus end product? So let's go back to process versus standard. So where does individual growth fit into, if we're, okay, here we go. Do you judge how the child individually does with the process, or do you grade them against a standard? Is it possible for every grade 3 student to meet the standard? So when we are grading, when we are evaluating, do we have a standard? And it doesn't really matter the process that the child takes to get there. It's just they have to meet that standard. If we are questioning that whole idea of all kids must reach the standard in grade 3 and the standard in grade 4 and the standard in grade 5, then we absolutely have to be evaluating our standardized tests and our government tests and the effectiveness of those. Again, we'll talk more when we talk about standardized tests, but I want to get it all churning in there. And process versus standard. What if a child gets to the same answer but goes a different way? Is that okay? Or do we still want all kids to get to the same answer the same way? And that's a hot topic right now. It's a hot topic in our curriculum development our curriculum that is being developed right now by the Alberta government, talking about we want to get away from that kind of constructivist ideology where kids can have different paths to different answers, versus we must take all students down the same path to the same answer. Okay, so that's process versus standard. Do we care about the process of how students learn and get to that learning, or do we only care that they hit a standard? Again, these are decisions you have to make as an autonomous professional teacher. And let's look at journey versus end product. Is about what they are learning, trying or failing to do on the way, or is it only about the end product? So do we care about the journey to get to the learning, or do we just care about the learning? I'm kind of an end goal person personally in my life, but I'm a definite journey person for my students. and I'll give you an example of why I'm an end goal person. Have you ever done a labyrinth? There's, labyrinths with bushes or just on a sidewalk or whatever. And you basically go through the labyrinth. But as you go through the labyrinth, you're supposed to be contemplating life and your decisions and all the good things that have happened and how you could have reacted differently. So my husband and I were at this labyrinth, and so I get in this labyrinth and I just go all the way to the center, and then I stand there. I'm like, okay, I'm here. I where's my prize? I got here, and my husband is just going, you missed the whole idea of the journey. And I'm like, the journey. So again, I think sometimes we as teachers who have the end goal in mind, we want to become a teacher, and we are committed and focused, and we get there. But when we get in our classroom, I think we have to really honor the journey. Is that how are these kids actually getting to that learning? And how can we honor that every child that their journey will look different from everybody else's? So again, if then at the end of the unit we have a unit test with 50 multiple choice for our grade 6s, is that really honoring the journey? Maybe you say, absolutely yes. The way that I created it, absolutely yes. But I think you have to evaluate whether that end product is important, or is it the journey that's important? Okay, let's talk about when does skill matter? When do they actually have to be able to do the thing that we're asking them to do? Is it in elementary? Is it in a high school? Is it in university? If we go in for brain surgery, we kind of want our neurosurgeon to have some skills. We don't want them to have just put an effort in and tried their best. We want them to actually have the skill before they crack open our skull, kind of thing, right? So when do they have to be able to actually be able to do a proper layup and sink a hoop and not just try? When in music, do they have to know that they have to play an F sharp and not an F natural because it just doesn't fit the music? So again, I think that's one of those things that you have to think about as a teacher. When does it become imperative that they can actually do what we're teaching them, or actually really understand what we're teaching them, instead of just potentially being a nice person and trying really hard? Which leads into our final question. Where does effort fit in? We all know that maybe we were the kids who didn't really have to put that much effort into learning, but we just did well on tests. Maybe we know somebody who has to put so much effort into learning and still gets kind of mediocre grades. Does effort have a place in evaluation? Does it have a place in our summative evaluation of students? Lots of school boards are going away from including effort on the report card. It's obviously, still in the classroom is a admirable characteristic, but lots of school districts are going away from effort being part of their official evaluation or report card grade, because again, it's seen as really subjective, and basically it kind of goes back to that standards idea. Did they hit the standards or the grade level criteria? And if they did, it doesn't matter if they tried really hard or if they didn't have to try it at all, they hit the criteria. So again, these are things that you will have to decide as a teacher. Does effort actually count in summative evaluation? It can definitely count in formative or assessment, but where does it fit in evaluation? Interesting questions. Okay, so let's finish off with, again, you've seen this quote before. It's worthy of coming back. Elliot Eisner, not everything that matters can be measured, and not everything that is measured matters. I think when we are talking about evaluation, especially in elementary, but also junior and senior high school, what is the purpose of evaluation? And if it's not to improve student learning, then we, as the professional teacher, have to reevaluate that. Okay, awesome work. Enjoy, and we will see you soon.